Have you ever found yourself weighed down by sadness, unable to see the way forward? It's in these moments, when life feels its heaviest, that the wisdom of the Buddha becomes a guiding light. The Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." But how do we find that peace when the world around us seems to pull us into despair? In this video, we'll journey into some of the most profound teachings of the Buddha, lessons that remind us of the impermanence of pain and the unshakable strength we all carry within. We'll explore not just ancient wisdom, but also how these timeless truths can transform our modern lives. Together, we'll uncover the tools to navigate life's struggles with grace, resilience, and, most importantly, hope. So, whenever you feel sad in life, remember, even the darkest nights eventually give way to dawn. Let's take this step together, one moment of mindfulness at a time. When we hear the word suffering, we often think of pain, loss, or heartbreak. But in the teachings of the Buddha, suffering, or dukkha, is much broader. It's the subtle dissatisfaction that we all experience, even during moments that seem perfect on the surface. The Buddha's journey began with a deep realization: life is impermanent. Everything we experience, whether it brings joy or sorrow, is constantly changing. To understand why we suffer and how to overcome it, he left behind a life of luxury and discovered the Four Noble Truths. These truths show us the path to transform suffering into peace. One of the core lessons he taught was this: all conditioned things are impermanent. This isn't meant to make us feel hopeless. Instead, it's a reminder that nothing lasts forever, not our pain, not our joy, not even the hardest circumstances we face. Think about it. How often do we cling to what we wish could last or fear what might happen in the future? These attachments create much of the suffering we feel. But when we accept that everything is temporary, we can begin to let go of that burden. There was a time in my life when I lost someone I loved deeply. The pain felt overwhelming, like a storm that would never end. But when I turned to the teachings of impermanence, I began to understand that my suffering wasn't just from the loss, it came from my refusal to accept it. Once I embraced the truth of impermanence, the storm didn't vanish, but it lost its power over me. It taught me that just as the seasons change, so do our emotions, challenges, and circumstances. And within this truth lies freedom. Impermanence isn't something to fear. It's a call to cherish the present moment. No matter how difficult life feels, this moment will pass. And with it comes a chance to grow, to heal, and to start again. Suffering is a universal experience. But according to the Buddha, it is not without purpose. In fact, suffering can be a powerful teacher if we choose to see it that way. The Buddha once said, "Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding." This means that the struggles we face are not just obstacles but opportunities to grow stronger and wiser. Let me share one of the most famous Buddhist parables, the story of Kisa Gotami. She was a young mother who lost her only child and was completely devastated. In her grief, she went to the Buddha and begged him to bring her son back to life. The Buddha told her that he could. But first, she needed to find a mustard seed from a house where no one had ever experienced death. Kisa Gotami went from house to house, searching desperately. But she couldn't find a single home untouched by loss. In the process, she realized that death and suffering were universal. She returned to the Buddha, no longer pleading for her son's life, but instead asking for wisdom to accept her pain. This story teaches us a profound lesson. Challenges and suffering are not punishments but reminders that we are all connected by the same human experiences. What sets us apart is how we respond to those challenges. The Buddha also taught about the concept of the two arrows. The first arrow is the inevitable pain of life, illness, loss, failure. But the second arrow is how we react to that pain. When we resist, blame, or dwell on our misfortune, we shoot ourselves with a second arrow, doubling our suffering. Think about this in your own life. When something goes wrong, do you spend days or weeks replaying it in your mind, asking, "Why me?" This reaction is the second arrow. But if you choose to accept the pain as it is, without judgment or resistance, you stop that second arrow from causing further harm. Personally, I've struggled with this lesson many times. There was a period in my life when I faced constant rejection, whether in my career or personal relationships. I used to replay those failures over and over in my mind, letting them define my worth. But when I began to see them as just one part of a larger story, I found the strength to move forward. The Buddha's teachings remind us that every challenge we face has the potential to transform us. It's not about avoiding pain, but about learning to grow through it. As the Buddha said, strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths. When you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that is strength. The next time life feels overwhelming, remember this: challenges are not here to destroy you. They are here to build your resilience and deepen your understanding of yourself and the world around you. When we face sadness or challenges in life, it's easy to feel stuck, as if there's no way out. But the Buddha offers us a path forward, a set of practical steps that can help us find peace, even in the darkest times. These steps are grounded in mindfulness, compassion, and letting go. One of the first lessons the Buddha teaches is to let go of attachment. Often, our sadness comes from holding on to things we cannot control, relationships that have ended, opportunities we've missed, or expectations that didn't turn out the way we hoped. The Buddha said, "You only lose what you cling to." Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means freeing yourself from the chains of expectations and allowing life to flow naturally. A simple practice to start letting go is mindfulness. Pay attention to the present moment without judgment. Focus on your breath, the sensations in your body, or the sounds around you. When you do this, you create space between yourself and your thoughts, allowing you to respond to life's challenges with clarity instead of reacting with fear or anger. Here's a personal example. There was a time when I felt overwhelmed by the pressures of work and personal life. I would constantly worry about the future, whether I was doing enough, achieving enough, or living up to expectations. It was exhausting. But when I began practicing mindfulness, even for just a few minutes a day, I noticed a shift. Instead of being consumed by my worries, I started to observe them, almost as if they were passing clouds. This simple act of awareness gave me a sense of calm and control. Another key step is cultivating compassion, not just for others but for yourself. The Buddha taught that suffering is universal. And because of that, we must approach ourselves with kindness. When we're sad, it's easy to be harsh on ourselves, to think, "I'm not strong enough," or "I should be able to handle this better." But self-compassion reminds us that it's okay to feel vulnerable. It's okay to struggle. A practical way to build self-compassion is through loving-kindness meditation. Sit quietly and repeat phrases like, "May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I find peace." Extend those wishes to others as well, friends, family, even strangers. This practice not only softens the sadness we feel, but also strengthens our connection to others. Lastly, remember the power of gratitude. When we focus on what we have instead of what we lack, our perspective shifts. The Buddha said, "Let us rise up and be thankful. For if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learned a little. And if we didn't learn a little, at least we didn't get sick. And if we got sick, at least we didn't die." So, let us all be thankful. Even in moments of sadness, there is always something to be grateful for: a supportive friend, a warm meal, or even the fact that you are still here, breathing, with the chance to start again. So, what can you do today to find peace? Start small. Take a deep breath. Let go of one thing that's been weighing on your heart. Practice kindness toward yourself and others. And remember, peace isn't something you need to chase. It's already within you, waiting to be uncovered. Sometimes, the most profound lessons are learned through stories. The Buddha often used parables to teach us timeless truths about life. And these stories continue to resonate deeply even today. Let me share a few that might help you see your own struggles in a new light. The first story is about the farmer and his horse. Once, there was a farmer who owned a horse. One day, the horse ran away. The neighbors came to express their sympathy, saying, "What terrible luck." But the farmer simply replied, "Maybe. Who knows?" A few days later, the horse returned, bringing with it several wild horses. The neighbors were amazed and said, "What great fortune!" But again, the farmer said, "Maybe. Who knows?" The farmer's son tried to tame one of the wild horses, but he fell and broke his leg. The neighbors came again, offering their pity. "What bad luck!" Still, the farmer remained calm and said, "Maybe. Who knows?" Soon after, soldiers came to the village to recruit young men for war. Because the farmer's son had a broken leg, he was spared. The neighbors, once more, exclaimed, "What a blessing!" And again, the farmer said, "Maybe. Who knows?" This story teaches us that life's events are neither inherently good nor bad. It's our perspective that assigns them meaning. When we let go of judgment and stay open to what unfolds, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. Think about your own life. How often have you labeled an experience as terrible, only to later realize it led to something positive? Or vice versa. The lesson here is to trust the flow of life, even when it doesn't make sense in the moment. Another story is the parable of the two arrows. The Buddha once asked his disciples, "If a person is struck by an arrow, does it hurt?" They replied, "Yes." Then he asked, "If the person is struck by a second arrow in the same spot, does it hurt even more?" The disciples nodded. And the Buddha explained, "The first arrow is the unavoidable pain of life, illness, loss, failure. The second arrow is our reaction to that pain, anger, blame, or self-pity. While we cannot always control the first arrow, we can avoid the second one." This parable reminds us that our response to challenges determines the depth of our suffering. The next time you're faced with pain, ask yourself, am I shooting myself with a second arrow? By choosing acceptance and mindfulness, you can prevent unnecessary harm. Finally, let me tell you about the bowl of poison. One day, a man approached the Buddha and began yelling insults at him. The Buddha remained calm and asked, If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, who does the gift belong to? The man replied, "It belongs to the one who offered it." The Buddha smiled and said, "In the same way, if I do not accept your anger, it remains yours." This story teaches us that we have the power to choose how we respond to negativity. We can let anger and criticism consume us, or we can choose to let it pass without attachment. Each of these stories offers a powerful lesson. Life is unpredictable, stay open to its flow. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. We don't have to carry every burden that is handed to us. Take a moment to reflect. Which of these stories speaks to you the most? And how might you apply its wisdom to your life? Remember, the answers are not in the stories themselves, but in how we choose to live by their lessons. I hope today's journey has brought you some peace and clarity. The teachings of the Buddha are not just ancient words, but living wisdom that can guide us through the struggles of modern life. Remember, sadness is a part of being human, but it doesn't define you. It's simply a visitor, passing through, teaching you to grow stronger and wiser. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which story, quote, or teaching resonated with you the most? Was it the lesson of impermanence, the parable of the two arrows, or perhaps the idea of letting go? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read each one and look forward to hearing your insights. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need a little inspiration today. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the Path to Buddhist Wisdom. Together, we can continue exploring these timeless teachings and finding peace in a chaotic world. Thank you for being here. May you find peace in every step of your journey. Until next time, take care and stay mindful.